What is something that's perfectly legal, but raises a ton of red flags? Following another car for too long, especially in side streets. My parents taught me that if this happens, to never go home but instead, to make random nonsensical turns and drive in loops. If they continue to follow, to call for help. This actually happened to me once, when I was 16. I made several random turns, like they had taught me. The person indeed continued to follow me. I'd been close to my home when I noticed them, so I left my neighborhood and stayed a good distance away. This person was right on my ass, following me left and right. After a few minutes of this, I called my parents explaining the situation, and within 5 minutes, I see my parents' other car trailing closely behind the guy and copying his every move, essentially sandwiching him between my car and their car. Once the driver realized he was caught, he fucked off onto a nearby freeway and sped away, but it was too late. They'd gotten his license plate and called the police already. He was caught right away. He lived nearby and had just gotten home, and my parents called and said it was safe to go home, but that they were going to follow up with the police to see what happened and possibly press charges against this mystery person. It turned out it was a teenage boy. His excuse was, I thought I knew the girl in the car and I wanted to scare her. I did not know the person, nor had I ever seen his car. No charges were pressed. Apparently the boy was very apologetic, and the cops and my parents believed he thought he knew me, but his parents took away his car privileges and grounded him for the rest of the summer, then apologized to my parents profusely for his behavior. I'm still glad that it was just a kid attempting a prank and not something worse, because I admit I was scared shitless. I always get paranoid when I make a stupid mistake while driving, or do something that could perceived, like challenging someone, that they are gonna follow me and start a fight. Like I accidentally cut someone off yesterday, and the dude followed me the rest of the way to my destination sans the final turn, and I was like, this is it. I'm gonna end up on Rudyardson. Cause I felt so relieved when he finally stopped following. Having an insanely high electric bill. Yup. Worked for an electric company for a while. Those people with a monthly bill of $30,000 in a 3-bedroom house really made you think. My mom used to run an embroidery business out of our house. One December she had so many orders she was working late at night. One morning there was an RCMP officer and a hydro worker at our door. They all had a good laugh when they realized it was two old ladies embroidering not a grow opus. Brushing your hair with a fork. Gets offended in Little Mermaid. Dingler Hopper. Based on next door posts from my neighbors, apparently wearing a hoodie should be on this list. I'm on a local Facebook group that's essentially next door, and this week has been a tirade of people complaining about a single incident that it snowed, and a couple teens were doing donuts in a completely empty parking lot for an hour. I was blocked after suggesting it wasn't that big of a deal. The real service Nextdoor and local Facebook groups provide is letting you know just how many of your neighbors are old, racist, or both. One time my cat unplugged my chest freezer and everything in it went bad by the time I had realized it. I plugged it back into a freezer to cut down on the odor somewhat before emptying it out. I went to the nearest home improvement store and bought a few things to clean up. Just normal stuff like arm-length nitrile gloves, N95 masks, large contractor grade trash bags, some cutting tools to chip at the ice, and copious amounts of Audubon. It was gardening season and I needed a new shovel, so I added it to the pile to save myself another trip. I still don't understand why that cashier looked so uncomfortable when I paid in cash. Similarly, I decided to go on an overpass camping trip and knew my tent's rainfly was suspect. I made a quick trip to the hardware store for a vinyl tarp, some nylon laundry cord and a roll of the camper's best friend, duct tape. While ringing me up, the cashier asked if I was planning to take someone for a ride. I had a similarly odd grocery cart when my dog got skunked. Bleach, all of the store's peroxide, white vinegar, trash bags, rubber gloves. I was smelly and disheveled in the store because he got skunked and then ran inside and rubbed everywhere first thing in the morning. So I was still in pajamas. Standing really close to the person in line in front of you. I went to a college with a lot of foreign students and this was a huge pet peeve of mine. I couldn't turn left or right in any lines without my backpack hitting the person behind me. As a guy whose backpack was stuffed and was very thick in high school, please back the fuck up. I can feel you through my backpack, practically on the verge of humping it. Give me space, FFS. Using the urinal next to a guy also using a urinal in a row full of empty urinals. A mall I used to go to only had 3 urinals. If no one else was in there, when I went in I'd always go for the middle one, MWA, ha 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 ha. And also using a urinal that's already occupied. Digging roughly human-sized holes in your front yard at 2 AM. You gotta lane them to make sure the size is right. I would do this just to fuck with nosy neighbors